This is Planning Development Committee. Could someone close that door back there? Just anybody? Thank you, Alderman Fleming. There you go. First item on our agenda tonight for the Planning and Development Committee is the approval of the minutes of the August 15 meeting. Have a motion?
Second.
Any corrections, additions, changes? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, first item on our agenda is Ordinance 87-017, granting a special use for a Type 2 restaurant for Amanisara Taco Shop at 512 Main Street. Excellent.
I move approval.
Move approval?
Second.
And also, I'd like us to suspend the rules
Yes,
this
I
evening.
see that. And so that is part of the motion to introduce, suspend the rules and take action. Anybody here, I see the owner is here. Anybody like to speak to this tonight?
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. So this will be on the council agenda for introduction and action. Okay, great. All right, next item is 89-017, extending the time for the applicant to obtain a building permit to construct the residential unit in the planned development at 318-320 Dempster Street. This is also a request from Alderman Nguyen to suspend the rules for introduction and action.
I move introduction and suspension of the rules and then action.
Second.
So anybody, this is Alderman Revelle. Would you like to say something?
I just have a question. So why is this a planned development? Or is that a long story? I tend to think of a planned development as, something big.
Okay.
I'll let the expert answer.
Good evening, Johanna Leonard. It is a planned development because of the lot size and the number of dwelling units that are on the site. And there were a handful of variances. If you had a chance to read the 2008 ordinance, there were a handful of variances that at the time staff felt the best way to handle that was to do a planned development.
It's an old livery stable that they're creating. There was an apartment in it originally, and now the applicant is creating a modern dwelling unit in it.
Very interesting project. It's taking quite a while. Like a decade. All right, any other comments? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I'm sorry, I have overlooked the sign-up sheet. We have Betty Suester. Did you want to speak now? I can't tell what item you want to speak to. Betty Esther.
It's not on the agenda.
Okay, so do you want to speak now, or, I'm sorry, I just noticed that we have a sign-up sheet.
Well, if you want to finish your business first, and then I can
Okay,
speak
all
last,
right.
since it's not on the agenda.
Okay, that'll be fine. Why don't we do that? And I'll
Okay.
call you up. Just
All right.
don't leave. And then we have a person whose last name is O'Malley. That's very clear. Yes. And what item did you want to speak to?
The library parking lot.
Okay. I think you might, do you want to speak at the council? Because that was handled at the previous meeting.
Oh, there's not going to be public comments on that
Yeah,
tonight?
but at the council meeting. Okay?
Not this?
No.
This is a committee. We have a couple committee meetings before the council meets in
Yeah.
full.
Okay, so we'll get your, pardon me? Yeah, the council sign-up sheet is right outside.
Okay, I wrote my name on a couple.
Okay, so you're covered no matter what meeting you're at. Okay. Okay. So next item on our agenda is P3, Ordinance 91-017, granting a special use and major variations to allow expansion of a retirement home at 120 Dodge Avenue. This got approval from the Zoning Board of Appeals with certain conditions. And this is a nursing home in my ward at Dodge and Dobson, which I support, and I'm asking for suspension of the rules and introduction and action, and I move approval.
Second.
Any discussion? I know the owners are here. Alderman Ravel.
I just noticed that it says that the building's downspouts are directly connected to our sewer system. I didn't think that we did that very often.
Well, we did have both the applicant and the city did an investigation regarding their retention, and everybody approved that they had, complied.
Right, I mean, historically, they've
I know.
been disconnected.
I know,
They've
I
been
understand.
connected.
Yeah.
I was
I
just
don't
wondering
know.
what our general policy in the city is about that.
I know Ingrid was on Dapper, and it got past her, which is very rare. So I don't see anybody here from our staff who could respond to you. Could you see? We could get that answer by the council meeting, if that would be okay.
It's more just a piece of information I'd be interested to have.
Okay, all right.
It's not going to stop me from
Okay,
voting on this issue.
okay. So we'll get it by then.
Right.
I know, because that was something I read very carefully about, yeah.
Okay.
All right. This is really going to make that corner, even though there is a great deal of coverage of impervious surface, it's going to be a beautiful garden and a lot of space for people to be outside. Here he comes. I'm not sure. We'll get it. Mr. Stoneback, this is the 120 Dodge, the nursing home, where in the packet and from the public hearing, or the hearing before ZBA, they mentioned that their downspouts are connected to the sewer system.
And that is acceptable. It's single-family residential homes that have to have their downspouts disconnected. So multifamily and commercial properties are allowed to have their downspouts connected to the sewer.
There you go. We knew you'd have the answer. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
And they did further studies also. All right. Okay, so hearing no other concerns, all those in favor of referring this to the council for introduction and action tonight, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you very much. Next item is for introduction, ordinance 92017, the zoning text amendment regarding transit-oriented development parking requirements for introduction. Okay? Second. All right, discussion. Alderman Fisk.
I have some concerns about this, only because the TOD area is so large, and it hits neighborhoods that are already overparked. And I think some of the developers are asking for very high rates for folks to park within the building, so they go out onto the street. And I'm just concerned that our street parking problem is going to persist with this. And so I will vote for introduction and probably vote against it at council.
Anybody else? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of moving introduction, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Any items for discussion? Anybody? Pardon me? Oh, Betty Esther, citizen comment. And anybody else who didn't know about the sign-up sheet?
Excuse me. Good evening. My name is Betty Esther. I was at the homeless housing, whatever, the HHR meeting the other day, and one of the things that was brought up was the RH RHI, which is the Regional Housing Initiative. That is a consortium of organizations that Evanston is part of. And one of the things that we found out was that this here organization, they talk about affordable housing and stuff, but it got confusing because we couldn't tell whether they was for supportive housing for people that are homeless, disabled, mentally ill, and the likes, or was they for creating housing for low-income individual. The only issue that they have, they didn't make enough money. We asked where they were. They take in Lake, Cook, part of Cook, and McHenry and County. So in doing this, when you do a developer comes to Evanston and says, I want to do this and I'm going to be working with the RHI, then that means that Evanston residents might be excluded. You have a project that will be coming before you, which is the Howe projects, and that's one of the things that they could not tell the committee or guarantee the committee that any Evanston residents would be there, unless there's an Evanston resident on the list and they lives within 12 miles of the thing and so forth. So this is something that committee was supposed to have came to the community and taught and educated the people in the community about what it was and what it was supposed to do. That part of their initiative missed the boat. They did not do that. So I'm asking the council to ask them to fulfill their obligation and educate the people here in Evanston as to what they are and what they do. The other thing that I asked y'all to take a look at, and it hasn't made the agenda yet, is creating low-income housing for people at the 50% of the area median income and below. We say we're going to do that. We have houses goes up and, oh, this house is going to have so many affordable units, but yet and still we will take the money, and you're still not helping the people that really need to be helped. That should be taken out of the inclusionary zoning ordinance and any other ordinance for the fee in lieu should be removed when you are talking about creating affordable housing. The other issue too, when that happened, and you need to do that, is that the city has to consciously look at following the fair housing ordinance. That has not been done because most of the affordable low-income houses have been placed in the CDBG area, which is kind of mainly hardest hit, was the 5th Ward. There's some in the 8th Ward. We are not scattering them like the ordinance says throughout the whole city. They are supposed to be scattered out the whole city. They're supposed to be integrated into neighborhoods throughout the city. We, as the citizens of Evanston and the city of Evanston, you as the leaders who we voted in to take care of this daily operation thing, have kind of fallen slack on that. I know most of you just got here, but you have been in this community for a long time and you have not spoken up on that issue. Now is the time that we need to start speaking up and saying that it need to be done. The fair housing ordinance need to be followed, and new housing for the affordability should be placed in those neighborhoods where they have not been placed before. Thank you.
Betty Sue, we sue people who don't follow the fair housing ordinance. don't say we don't follow the fair housing ordinance. You can't just stand up there and make these charges. I sat at my desk the other night, and I fought to have 4 additional units of affordable housing put in a building at the corner of Chicago Avenue and Howard Street, and the affordable housing people sat out in that audience and said, no, we don't want it. So
Well,
get
then
the
you
fair
should-
housing, the affordable housing people need to get their act together too. So, don't stand up there and say
The one at 1831 was
I
an
don't
issue
care.
of poor housing and stuff and what was being planned,
Right.
and that didn't go through because this was issued
I'm
at,
talking about the comments you just made. You cannot stand up there and just say anything and get away with it. So you just can't do that. And maybe you don't. I guess your fans don't mind you saying anything, whether it means.
no, because you're not following your rules. Remember, you're not supposed to be speaking back or arguing with the people at the podium.
Second. Rules Committee will convene, well, vote on the adjournment. We need to vote on adjournment?
Aye.
Aye. And the Rules Committee meeting will convene as soon as I can round up the rest of the aldermen.